She's been with them since, she's been the director since 2008, and her passion for their mission has inspired synagogues, schools, youth groups, and individuals to take an active role in building a world without genocide. And I know that's going to happen as well. In addition to partnering with representatives of Jewish World Watch, 68 member synagogues to engage and activate their communities, Mina has helped to create the Orange County Walk to End Genocide, enabling Jewish World Watch, their southernmost Southern California synagogue members to participate in the meaningful advocacy that the walk inspires. How many of you are from Southern California? Any of you belong to a synagogue? Have you heard about Jewish World Watch walk in genocide? Well, before joining Jewish World Watch, Mina worked in both a professional and a volunteer capacity for several organizations, serving the local Jewish community and Israel. In addition, she spent 11 years in the field of Jewish education. Mina and her husband George are the proud parents of Tzvia, Atara, Arel, and Tania. I would like you to give a warm welcome to Mina.
Okay, see, that was probably a mistake. Now that you know I've got 4 kids, you're thinking, oh gosh, she's a lot older than I thought she was. But I want to thank Dr. Goodman. I am absolutely thrilled to be addressing you this evening. When I saw the lineup of the speakers you've had up until now, and the speakers that you'll have after me, I can say I was a little intimidated, but very impressed. This is a fabulous series. I want to acknowledge, besides you, that there's some community leaders here. Barbara is from the Alliance, and I will be talking a little bit later about Gabe Farron, and give you an opportunity to take the awareness that you'll hopefully gain tonight and put it into action. So, I know you've already had a speaker from Sudan talk a little bit about what's going on in Darfur and in Sudan, probably with what's happening right now. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our organization, how it started. I'm going to give you a little bit of a refresher course just to put into context some of the things we're going to be talking about, some of the on-the-ground work that we do, and then we'll move on to Congo. So Jewish World Watch, that's kind of an obvious connection, especially to those of you who are signed up for this series. Yes, you could say we suffered a genocide, therefore it is our responsibility to prevent genocide happening from other groups. I'd like to think that the reason this organization was founded goes much deeper. This is how it happened. There is a rabbi that lives in the San Fernando Valley, kind of a famous rock star, well-known rabbi. His big passion for most of his professional life has been something called the Schulweis Institute that he founded. Obviously, his name is Rabbi Schulweis. He felt it was very important to not only acknowledge, but to support those righteous Gentiles that risked their lives to save Jews during World War II. And much of his life has been spent in that direction. On the other hand, he has been tormented throughout his professional life, wondering how can it be that the leaders of faith, regardless of what faith they represented, could sit by during World War II, whether it started as rumors, and when those rumors became substantiated, and sit by and allow 6 million people, because of their religion, to be annihilated. And that was something he just constantly grappled with. Well, in 2004, one of his congregants came up to him and said, you know, you're always talking about the Holocaust. You're always saying, where were the priests? Where were the imams? Where were the rabbis when we were being annihilated? My question is, Rabbi, what are you doing for the people of Darfur? Now, in 2004, most of us had no idea what Darfur was, where to find it on a map, or what was going on. And slowly, just like in the 30s and 40s, we started getting a trickling of information. Well, Rabbi Schulweis went home, he did his research, and he found that, yes, once again, a genocide was taking place. And keep in mind, this is 10 years after Rwanda. So you guys were young, but I wasn't so young. And I remember very clearly, and it's something that to this day I'm ashamed of, opening the paper every morning and shaking my head and saying, God, this is awful, and then turning the page. And I think Rabbi Schulweis had that same response. 10 years after Rwanda, where we sat and did nothing, it was happening again. Different place, different people, different perpetrators, but the same thing, genocide. Since the Holocaust ended, since World War II, since there has been a definition of genocide from the United Nations, and I'm sure this is something that you guys have already studied, and that really when it comes to defining genocide, you just need to know intent and group. Since that definition was created, 37 genocides have taken place. Well, we came up with a motto after the Holocaust. It was never again. And I think at this point, Rabbi Schulweis felt, how many times do we say never again until we mean it? And he said, it's time for a response. And this will be, if we're the only responders, it'll be the Jewish response to genocide. Thankfully, maybe that's how it started, but we are beyond. By the way, we now are 70-member synagogue strong, and our southernmost walk is not Orange County, it's San Diego, and we have a huge coalition of church members as well. So yes, it began as a Jewish response to genocide, but genocide is everyone's problem. Not just if you happen to be from a group that once survived a genocide. So that's how the organization started. How I came along is kind of interesting. I actually loved what I was doing. I loved education, and I loved my job. To the point where, and this is the embarrassing part, I was the honoree at their big gala. And they had their big gala, and there was a lot of attention. And just a week after that, the co-founder with Rabbi Schulweis, Janice Cameron-Resnick, came and spoke at my synagogue. She spoke about the organization. She spoke about what the organization was doing, and I was speechless. As a person of faith, I struggled every day, and I don't think you need to identify with any faith to have the same struggle. But it makes it even more complicated, because on one hand, if you believe that there is something bigger than you, that has a design for what's good and what's bad in this world, and yet you see terrible things happening, evil happening, and it's not my original question. Believe me, this question has been going on since the beginning of time. But it was a question that I struggled with. How can I believe this on one hand and see this on the other? But when Janice Cameron-Resnick came and spoke about Jewish World Watch that Saturday morning, and she told another Rabbi Schulweis story, how a congregant came up to him and said, I don't understand, Rabbi Schulweis, where was God in the Holocaust? Where is God in Darfur? And his answer was, godliness is in our response to evil. And those were the magic words I needed to hear. That's what resonated with me. I didn't have to wait around anymore or open the paper and shake my head and say this was a shame. All of a sudden, I became part of the team that could make things better or just be a bystander and see what happened. And I chose to be part of the team to make things better. And it's a very, very slow progression. Make no mistake. I'm going to tell you a lot tonight. Some things that are going to be very, very difficult to hear. Some things that hopefully will be inspiring and empowering. But make no mistake, ending genocide is not going to happen overnight. It may not happen in my lifetime. And honestly, it feels like one step forward and 5 steps back. But if we, as a group, decide to keep taking those steps forward, eventually we'll get there. If we shake our head, like so many did it during Rwanda, and say there's nothing I can do about it, then you're right. There's nothing we can do about it, and here in 2012, and forevermore, we will live in a planet that feels that genocide is an appropriate response to conflict. I don't want to live on that planet. Okay, so, oops, I lost my slide. Okay, here's your brief recap of history, which I know you already know. Sudan, up until recently, largest country in the continent of Africa. When the British left, they didn't give a lot of thought into the fact that, well, the people that lived in the north, near Egypt, were primarily Muslim Arab, and the people that lived in the south were African Christians or animists. So already we have 2 points of potential conflict. To make things even more complicated, Khartoum, the capital, is in the north, and of course, where is the oil? South. So that was what started that very long, ugly civil war that you probably heard about from the Sudanese speaker when you hear about things like the Lost Boys of Sudan, human slavery, people in this country redeeming slaves, paying a tremendous amount of money to only find that they get 50 miles from where they were and kidnapped again and brought back into slavery. That was the Civil War. So our country decided to help negotiate a comprehensive peace agreement, which is a little bit the cause of the problems right now. The way you can divide Sudan north and south, you can also divide Darfur north and south. Darfur is a very, very large region. Oh, there we go, yeah. On the western side of the country. Anyone want to guess, unless you already know this, what state in the United States best represents in size Darfur? Guesses? Don't all call out at once? Boy, you guys are really different from high school. I spent about 20 minutes now. No, not California, not Florida. Good guess, Illinois. No, the answer is Texas. Largest state in the continental U.S. Now, if any of you have ever driven through Texas, nothing really worse. You are driving through endless nothing forever. But you are driving on roads, right? In Darfur, a very marginalized, poor, forgotten region, there are 3 roads that run through the country. Now, when we talk about roads, it's not like anything here. It's not even like the street you live on. We're talking about dirt, pitted roads. So during rainy season, they become impassable. They become flooded. If you need food, if you need medicine, if you need to get to your cousin's wedding in the next village, you're not going anywhere. During the summer, when the heat can reach 120 degrees, the roads become dry and cracked and pitted. And it's very difficult to drive, almost impossible unless you have an all-terrain vehicle. Not too many people in that region own them. So that is the problem. What made things worse is here we have a typical village in southern Darfur. Now, it looks pretty primitive, compared to the way we live, but if you look at these outer buildings, they're made out of concrete. This is a village that had business, that had a medical clinic, that had schools. The young adults in this village went to university in Khartoum. This was a viable working village. Most of the people that live in southern Darfur are farmers, don't make a lot, will never get rich, but it's enough to live on, and they get by. The people that live in the north are primarily nomadic. Now, everyone, for the most part, in Darfur has the same religion. Everyone is Muslim. There's no conflict there at all. There are ethnic differences. The people in the south are African, the people in the north are Arab, but for the most part, even during the times of the Civil War, these people got along just fine. To use a scientific term, they had a symbiotic relationship. It worked. During rainy season, just at the beginning, the nomads would drive their herds down to the south. Their herds would fertilize the crops of the farmers, and then in turn the farmers would sell their crops to the nomads, or the nomads would actually take the crops and sell them at market for the farmers. Everything worked really well, in spite of the ethnic differences. Sometimes there were problems, there was always tension, but most of those problems could be dealt with locally. If it was a big issue, then they would go to Khartoum, there would be a judgment, everything would work out. Then a couple things happened. First of all, climate change. Now, climate change is affected everywhere on the planet, but nowhere quite as harshly as this region of Africa. So what happened was rainy season began later and later and later in the year. Now, the nomads still had to bring their herds down south, or they would die. They needed something to eat, but the crops weren't growing yet. So instead of fertilizing the crops of the farmers, their herds trampled the crops of the farmers. The farmers, realizing they'd lost their livelihood for the year, got smart. The following year, they put up fences to protect their crops from the herds going down south, and that created conflict. This time, some of these conflicts could not be dealt with locally. This became very problematic because the other thing that happened around this time was a northern Sudanese general, Omar al-Bashir, took power in a military coup. Omar al-Bashir is many things. He is very savvy. He's smart. He's a fundamentalist and a racist. And the first thing he did when he got into power was throw out all Africans, all Christians, anyone who didn't think like him, or if they didn't think like him, they pretended to think like him so they could keep their jobs and their nets. Everyone was replaced with his cronies. So now, if there's a problem in Darfur, an already marginalized and forgotten and poor region, and they travel all the way to Khartoum to get some sort of judgment, do you think anyone there ever judged in favor of the African Darfuris? No, they had no representation. And this made things worse. The final straw was our peace treaty that we negotiated to end the Civil War, the Comprehensive Peace Agreement, which really looked good. It looked like it was going to work. Everyone was celebrating. There was one little problem. Because Bashir is so savvy, he made sure he got his way. He lost, but he still got his way. He said, you know, there's so many issues between the North and South. We've got to work out resource sharing. We've got to work out power sharing. Let's figure out what we've got. We've got reconciliation issues. Can we figure out the North and South problem before we deal with Darfur? Let's just keep Darfur on the back burner for now. So imagine, you're people who have been ignored, marginalized. You are invisible. You are hungry. You have nothing. And now you're left out of a U.S. negotiated peace agreement. What do? Well, we've seen what angry, young, marginalized men do, and they've been doing it since last spring. So a group, and I really mean a group, a handful of very disappointed young men decided we're going to head up north. We're going to take a military airport hostage. CNN will be there. BBC will be there. Everyone will be there. They will report our plight. The world can't ignore us anymore. And that's what they did. And do you think the world paid attention? No. This was 2004. Sudan was the last place we were thinking about at that time. So what Bashir did was his tactic that he calls draining the pond to get to the fish. And that was, he didn't send his troops after these guys. He didn't declare a civil war on all rebels. He let them stay where they were. But he sent his airplanes and his Antonov helicopters to their villages. And you know what? Since you can't be sure what villages they live in, he just sent them to random villages and bombed them. Just bombed villages because these guys were in the north. And once again, nobody paid attention. That was his green light. Why deal with this problem when I can get rid of it and no one will care? And that's what he's done. Now, all genocide has, and I'm sure you've studied this, has a method. Sometimes the method evolves, but the method is usually pretty consistent. Hitler's method was very sophisticated and very efficient. In Rwanda, I mean, think about it. In about 3 months, 1 million people were dead, not with anything as sophisticated as a gas chamber with machetes. You have to work really hard to kill 1 million people in 3 months with a knife. But that was a method. And everything sort of starts the same. First, you have to dehumanize the other. You have to create a scapegoat. Our problems are because of them, not because of me. I know I'm responsible for this country, but it's not me, it's them. It's the same thing over and over again. Just like we were called vermin, rats, cockroaches, the Rwandans were called vermin, rats, cockroaches, the Darfuris, it's the same thing. Take away the humanity, and then no one cares. They're less than humans. You can get rid of them. And unfortunately, the share was proven right because no one really paid attention. So, part one of his method is he'll send in his gunships, his Anton helicopters, his planes, and drop bombs, just carpet bomb a village, usually when people are asleep. Part two, when the smoke rises from the village in the morning, it signals the Janjaweed, which means evil man on horseback. Of course, they also ride camels and jeeps. They're very well funded. And they ride in, and their job is to finish the job, and they do it very effectively. And it's not just enough to kill everyone, because they have to send that message that you are less than human. So they destroy the food source. They use the scorched earth technique to make sure that no one can ever grow in those fields again. They throw bodies into the water wells. Water wells that have been there for generations, and they are now poisoned for 300 years. That's what they do. If you're lucky enough to survive, you have nowhere to come home to. Now, I know you know about this a lot already. I've given you sort of a recap, but it's very hard to get moved by statistics and facts and history and even numbers. I can say 400,000 Darfuris, and it's really not going to mean any more than if I say 6 million Jews or 1 million Cambodians. It's a number we can't even fathom. So I'm just going to tell you about one of the number, one person that we met. So I don't know if anyone here is familiar with our solar cooker project. It's probably the best known on-the-ground project we do. So I'll just give you a little recap. I'll go into it a little bit more later, maybe. Solar cooker project was developed. It was our first on-the-ground project in the refugee camps because what we found out is if you were lucky enough to survive the bombing of your village, if you were lucky enough to evade the Janjaweed, or maybe not evade the Janjaweed, but survive the Janjaweed, and you were lucky enough to walk 3 weeks through temperatures that could reach 120 degrees, cross the border into Chad and get to a refugee camp where you now no longer have a nationality, you no longer have a name, you're a number on some UNHCR workers' sheet of how to divide rations. If you're lucky enough to get there and you get your 700 calories of dry grain a day, your 2 gallons of water, a little cooking pot, what are you going to do with it? You've got to heat up that water in order to cook the grain, or you're not going to eat. And you've been starving for weeks. So what are you going to do? Let's say you're the one who survived the massacre of your family. You're the family head. You and 2 little sisters, maybe a cousin, but everyone else is gone. You've just arrived. This has been going on since 2004. If there was anything growing in that camp that you could cut down, set on fire, and burn to heat that water, it's long gone. So you were lucky. You made it there. How lucky are you going to be when you have to walk out that gate to collect firewood, maybe 15, 20 miles away? Do you go knowing there's a really good chance you're not going to come back? And if you don't come back, who's going to take care of these 3 little girls? Everyone is in the same situation as you, trying to survive the day with 0 resources. We realized no one ever should be forced to make that decision. And that's why we developed the Solar Cooker Project. It is amazing. It's totally low-tech. Picture a pizza box with tin foil, and it works. Not only does it doesn't only work because the low-tech technology works because solar cooking works. It works because we didn't show up at a refugee camp and say, hey, we're a bunch of Americans coming to fix your problem. We went there and we talked about solar cooking with the women. We built a plant. We paid them to manufacture the cookers. We paid them to train other women. They are invested in this project. It is the largest solar cooking project on the planet. We are in 4 refugee camps. Our goal is to be in all 10. That's our organizational goal. My goal is to dismantle all the 10 camps and send everyone back home to Darfur with their solar cookers. That's not happening so soon. So we took a trip to the refugee camps to make sure these cookers were doing what we had hoped. There's nothing, and one of the things that I'd like to talk about a little bit later is, what is this all about? Is it about you feeling good, or is it about making a difference? Everyone feels good about the solar cooker. I mean, they really feel this is a tangible thing. They're giving a gift to a refugee. Guess what? It's not about you feeling good. It's about making an impact. It's about saving lives. It's about making a difference. And that's why the Solar Cooker Project is so good, and that's why it works. And that's what we wanted to make sure. So we went, and what we found was amazing. We found that 86% of the women and girls no longer have to leave the camps. They are safe from rape, they're safe from attack, they're safe from murder. The food is cooked cleanly. Even the men who were absolutely refusing to eat anything from the solar cooker now love it because they say, hey, there's no bugs in the food. So everything is good about this cooker. Now, if any of you are descendants of a survivor from a genocide, you know that if you've ever heard the story firsthand, it took many, many, many decades before that person could actually share the story with you. It's a very, very difficult thing to do. It opens up the wounds and you live it again. Nobody really could say anything. They loved the cookers, they loved that we came. They were absolutely blown away that people knew about them and made that trip to make sure that they were okay, and they had never heard of Jews before in their lives. But they didn't tell their stories. So Janet, the other co-founder, the one that said the story that made me decide to send the email and get the job, embarrassingly only a week after I was the honoree at the gala, said, it was time to go. So she gets up and she said, I want you to know, we also come from a very ancient tribe of people. And throughout our history, there were people who, like you, wanted to destroy us, but we survived. And because we survived, we will not stand by, we will not be silent until you return home in peace and in security. And then she said, there are many people in America who care about you. And they would have come, but there wasn't room on the plane. Okay, what we didn't know was plane was a major trigger word, obviously. When Janice said plane, Zanuba couldn't be silent anymore. And she said, I remember the day the planes came. This is an upsetting story I'm going to share with you, but here it goes. That night, Zanuba's best friend had given birth to 2 twin boys, which was cause for a huge celebration. Everyone that night went to bed satisfied, exhausted, happy. It was a great night. Somewhere, maybe 3 or 4 in the morning, Zanuba describes a sound that was like the purring of a large animal. And the sound kept getting louder and louder and louder until it was directly overhead. Then she said, they dropped fire on us from the sky. And the helicopters just hovered and bombed and bombed and bombed. Many people died initially. Homes were burning, people were burning. It was chaotic, but they had heard enough about what had been going on to know what to expect, because as horrific as this was, they knew that the worst was coming. So what the survivors did was, I was going to go backwards, but I've already learned my lesson. Do not go backwards on this remote. You remember the beautiful scarves Zanuba was wearing. So they took their scarves and they dressed the boys to look like girls and women. They hid as many men as they could under sacks of grain, behind bolts of cloth, wherever they could hide, because it wasn't time to run. Wherever they could hide the men, they did, and the boys they disguised, because their belief was, we're good Muslims, they're good Muslims. You know, okay, they're called Janjaweed, but they're not going to humiliate anyone by asking them to remove their headscarf. Well, okay, that was wishful thinking, because that morning, the Janjaweed rode in, and they immediately looked around and said, there is no such thing as a village with only women. And they said, no, the men knew you were coming, they were scared, they ran, they banned us, they left us, and they didn't believe it. So what they did, and every time I tell this story, I'm sure most of you have seen that black and white footage from the Holocaust of the Gestapo guy going down the line. The Jews are all lined up in front of the pit, and just one after another bullet in their head. When I tell this story, I can't help but envision that, because what he did was he lined everyone up. And he said, take off your headscarf, take off your headscarf, take off your headscarf. If the person that took off their headscarf turned out to be a boy, they were shot immediately. If they were a girl or a woman, they were saved for what I think was a much worse fate. When he finally got down the line, he still, he wasn't a dummy. He wasn't going to be made a fool by these people. So he said, there's got to be some more men here somewhere. Where are they? And nobody answered. And he said, where are the men? Nobody answered. So what he did was he took mothers, daughters, granddaughters, sisters, took about 6 women and girls and put them in the trees. And then he set the trees on fire. And as the flames got higher, he said, where are the men? Nobody answered. Finally, there was a little 4-year-old girl on a lower branch, and the flames started licking at her skirt. And she started screaming for her mom. And her mom couldn't stand it anymore and said, I'll tell you where they are, just save my baby. So she told them where the men were hiding. They ran off to kill them and left the women and the girls farm. And they still weren't done. Because, like I said, with every genocide, it's really important to let the victims know and to let everyone else know that they're not even human. It's okay. They're not like us. We can do this. And what he did was he took the girls, one of which happened to be Zanuga's little sister, and in front of the rest of the survivors, raped 3 of them until they died, then beheaded them and used their heads to make a 3-stone fire in the final act of humiliation. When they finally left, the survivors knew they didn't have much time to get away because they would probably be back. The first place Zanuga ran was to her friends who had given birth just the night before, even though it seemed like probably years earlier, and found her and her new babies stabbed through with one bayonet. The survivors ran. They went as far as they could. They had nothing. They had no food, no water. It took them weeks. Many of them died on the way, but some of them made it to the Irdini refugee camp, which is where our team met them. After Zanuga finished her story, she said, can you do me a favor? And of course, we're expecting to hear, take me to America. I need food, I need money, I need anything. So Janice said, absolutely. Tell us what you want. She said, please tell my story. Maybe the people in your country don't know what's happening to us. Please tell my story. If they know my story and they know my story is not unique, they'll do something. We've been telling Zanuga's story since 2007. She's still in the Irdini refugee camp, and genocide is still happening in Darfur. Okay, this is what 80 to 90% of the villages now look like. That's how many villages have been destroyed. And if you're a lucky survivor, this is what your life becomes. Imagine living like this since 2004. About 700 calories a day and about 2 gallons of water, living under a plastic tarp. Okay, so we continue our work in Sudan on behalf of the Darfur refugees, and we realize as long as we can maintain that same level of commitment, there was an area we couldn't ignore. And that is this beautiful, picturesque vacation destination. Who wouldn't want to go here? This is the Democratic Republic of Congo. It is beautiful, and for all intents and purposes, should be the wealthiest place on this planet. It's about the size of Western Europe, and it looks like this. But this is the Congo that we know. Okay, so first of all, war. You hear a lot of reasons why war is going on in Congo. This is not tribal. This is probably nothing that you think. This is everybody. This is an international war for resources. And the only victims, the only losers are the Congolese people. So the Hutus that committed genocide in their own Rwanda and fled to Congo to avoid any sort of repercussions, they're there. The Congolese army, they're part of it. The Ugandans, everyone is jumping in. Everyone. There's no good guys. There's just victims, and those are the Congolese. Rape has become a weapon of war in Congo. And when I say rape, no matter what ugly image you have in your head, it does not come close. There is no word in the English language to describe what is done in Congo to women and girls. This is the systematic internal destruction of women and girls' bodies. I'm going to give you a number that is so shocking, I guarantee I'll say it and you won't even be able to process it. 1,100 women and girls are raped in Congo every single day. And 1,100 every day. And these numbers, these statistics only refer to women of childbearing years. So we're talking 15 to 49. We know, because we've been there now 3 times, that the oldest victim, at least the oldest victim we met, was 89 years old. The youngest was 4 months. So those horrific numbers don't even scratch the surface. And keep in mind, this is a weapon of war. It's not rape how you think of it. When women are used up after the 7th or 8th person is done with them, they call themselves ruined. And they are physically ruined. To make matters worse, because they're the victim, and obviously somehow to blame, they are ostracized from their families. Because much of this rape takes place in front of families. Sometimes entire families are raped in front of each other. It totally destroys the fabric of not just family, but of society. Women in Congo are the backbone. Destroy women, destroy Congo, and it's working. So 2 million people in Congo are displaced. That means 2 million people in their own country don't have a place to live because they have been run off of their villages. They have nowhere to go. They're living as refugees in their own countries. And we've seen it with our own eyes. Slavery exists in Congo. And this is an adult, but I will say on our second trip, it involved maybe a 5-hour jeep ride after 2 small planes to get to a mine that this warlord in his Armani suit and his Oakley sunglasses is sitting and saying, no, 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 we don't have slaves here, we don't have child labor here, and no, everyone's here because they want to be. So the same person, Janice, she's not intimidated by anyone, says, well, if they're not slaves, how do you pay them? Every every week they get a bucket of sand. Well, okay, I mean, if you're mining for something, maybe in that bucket of sand, you'll find a piece of gold, some tin, something, right? Or maybe you won't, and you will have worked back-breaking hours for an entire week to get nothing but a bucket of sand. He also said, there's no children. Well, Janice walks to the edge, looks over, and sees about 40 children digging in the mud. The second they see her, all the singing starts. She's coming from nowhere. That's the signal. When the women start singing, the children disappear. And he turns around and he says, see, no children. Well, we know better than that. Yes, there is slavery, there is exploitation, there are child slaves, there are child soldiers. This is all happening in Congo. And this beautiful place has become a place of such incredible pain and agony, it's unfathomable. So once again, I've given you a lot of really horrible, sad information, but I'm going to bring it down to one person that we met. We met Renee on our first trip. She was at the Heal Africa Hospital, and she also told us her story and asked us to share the story because she also believed that maybe people just don't know what's happening. So Renee was in her village. She had 2 children, a 5-year-old son and an 18-month-old son. And she heard shooting, like people were riding in and shooting in the air, and she knew trouble was coming. She knew it was in Interahamwe. Interahamwe are the former Hutus of Rwanda who were in Rwanda. So she ran into her home. She just was very quiet with her children. She felt that she's quiet enough, then maybe they just will leave her alone. They won't know she's there. A few minutes later, someone burst in her door. She called him a soldier because he was wearing an army shirt, but he was wearing jeans. And to use her words, he tried to make me his wife. So she fought very, very valiantly. Her kids were crying, they were scared, but she fought him and fought him and fought him. And then suddenly the door burst open again, and she thought, thank God, someone is coming to save me. Because this guy that walked in seemed to be like a general or something, because not only did he have the army shirt, he had the army pants, and he had those like things of bullets around his chest. So he walked in and he grabs the soldier off Renee and pulls him up and says, are you not even man enough to take this woman? And then proceeded to rape her in front of her children. Renee's baby started to cry, and he didn't even stop. He grabbed the baby, picked him up, and threw him against the wall. And then he stopped crying. He finished, then the second, and the third, and the fourth, and the fifth came in. When they finally left, she was absolutely decimated. Her insides were ruined, destroyed. She was bleeding, but she was alive. And she grabbed her children and she pulled them under the bed. She didn't know whether or not the baby was alive, but she pulled them under the bed and she just hid there. And then she stopped smoking. Because after you terrorize the people in the village, you got to get rid of them. You can't start digging in the ground if there's people living on top of it. So her house was put on fire while she was in it. And in the confusion, as she starts to run out, her 5-year-old gets lost in the smoke. And she thinks, oh my God, he's still in the house. She runs in, and the house collapses on her, and her body is covered with horrific third-degree burns. Renee survived, but her body was destroyed internally and externally. Her hands were fused together. So as she wandered the countryside, she tried several times to kill herself. She didn't even have the means when somebody would throw food at her to feed herself. And she was absolutely destroyed. And then one day, a man who she calls her angel, and certainly was, came and found her and brought her to the Heal Africa Hospital, where she has had 8 surgeries. to repair her internally, and 4 surgeries so far to repair some of the damage of the bird. She can now use her hands again. And I'll tell you something about Renee and about many of the people from Congo who are very, very devout Christians. She thanks God every day. She has the kind of faith I can't even imagine in good times, let alone having survived the horror she survived. Every day to her is a blessing, because even though her baby didn't survive, her 5-year-old did. And she dreams of one day she'll be reunited with him, and that's all it takes. She is really, really grateful. Renee also asked that we share her story. Okay, so why is this happening in Congo? Congo has the resource first. Tin, tantalum, tungsten, gold, every single piece of electronic equipment you own, your cell phone, your digital camera, why don't we use cameras anymore, cellular phones, your laptop, everything you use contains minerals, probably about 86% of them were mined in the Congo. And very possibly, but not probably, they came from conflict mines. When I have like 30 seconds to explain what is going on, I'm saying, did anyone ever see the movie Blood Diamond or remember the whole Blood Diamond scandal? And people say, yeah, and I'll say, picture that, but with minerals. Not everyone has diamonds, but everyone has a cell phone. So I'm not telling you this so you feel guilty or you feel you have blood on your hands. I'm telling you this because you should feel empowered. The electronics companies really don't care what kind of cell phone I have. In fact, if I showed you, you would totally roll your eyes because my kids say you are so old school and you're embarrassed to not take that phone out in front of me when I'm in public. They don't care. They care about you. You're their consumer. And I would never say boycott, because boycotts really don't work. You have the power to say, you know what, Canon, I like your cameras. You know what, Apple, I like your computers. I love my cell phone. I just want to make sure that it's conflict-free. And I want to make sure next time I replace one of my electronics, I'm replacing it with a piece of electronic equipment that is conflict-free. That's where you have the power. I think that's the, I mean, I hate to say it, so I'm leaving this, but that's where we're going to make a difference in Congo. It's not the solution. It's not even the main driver of the violence, because you know what? You take this away, there are people who are going to find something else to destroy over. But it is a really good start. And for 10 years, we have tried to get our government engaged in Congo. And everyone knows of the horror that's been going on there. And nobody really responded until we could point to the conflict minerals. And all of a sudden Congress said, oh yeah, that's something we can get behind. Now we know how to message this in a way where we can make a difference. And it's working. So part of the really big doctrine bill that was over 3,000 pages long, just a little part of it, dealt with this very issue, with conflict minerals. And what it said was this: any electronic company bringing products into this country had to show an audit of the supply chain where their minerals came from. It's not saying you can't bring your stuff in, but we need, as consumers, to know where those minerals came from. Everyone pretty much signed on to that. Now the problem is, Congress hasn't yet really clarified what that's supposed to look like and how it's going to be reinforced. That's where advocacy comes in. That's where you guys need to come in. Not only to be informed consumers, so you can say, yeah, I want the cell phone that doesn't have blood of children inside its components, but to also be able to speak to our policymakers saying, you know what? Get on with this. This is important. Yeah, there's a lot of financial issues this country has to deal with, but they can't wait. We've got to start saving lives in Congo. So that's the good news. Okay, so what can we do? That's kind of the bottom line while I'm here. Because I've given you a lot of really depressing news. And you may be thinking, I'm here, I'm in California, this is far away. This is a place I will never ever go. These are people I will never meet. I guarantee you will never go to Sudan. Maybe Congo, but never Sudan. And even if I did care to do something, what could I possibly do? And I'm here to tell you, you can do a lot. Number one, this is what our organization is built on, these 3 pillars. Number one, education. You guys, first of all, are spending this entire year learning about these types of issues, and more importantly, taking them from the past, dealing with the present, and figuring out how to prevent them in the future. And you can do it. I mean, like I said, it feels sometimes like one step forward and 5 or 6 steps back, but you got to keep moving forward. So education is the key. Hopefully, you know a little bit more about Sudan and about Congo than when you walked in. You now can educate others. If you feel this is an issue worthy of raising the awareness of the people you know to move from awareness to action, do it. You don't need a professional to come in. You now know as much as anyone else, probably more. Use that information and spread it. There we go. Okay, number 2. This is the most important. I'm probably going to say this in not a very professional way, the least sexy of the work, and the most important. It's advocacy. Everyone likes the idea of buying a solar cooker. You saw what those refugee camps look like. Nobody wants to be kept alive for the rest of their life in a refugee camp. Even with a solar cooker, even with some of the other projects that I'm going to share with you. Nobody. The only thing that brings us to an end is policy change. Once again, that's up to you guys. When I speak to younger students, I always say, so who does the president work for? And they'll sit there for a second, and sometimes they'll say Congress, or sometimes they'll say this, they'll say no. He works for us. We pay his bill. When you have an employer, you can't expect him to know what to do unless you give him instructions. If this is an issue, and I'm not saying it's an either or, because there are a lot of really important issues. There are domestic issues we should be caring about. But it's not, I care about this, therefore I can't care about that. Advocacy is the easiest thing to do, and it's a game changer. You don't have to write a check. You just have to use political pressure. And I can't tell you how important it is. It's the only thing that puts an end to this. So take advantage of it. We did a Facebook campaign. It was amazing. All of a sudden, we knew we were doing a good job when the State Department started following us. Take advantage of these campaigns. And I'm not going to put down any other organization, but think about the difference between advocacy and advocacy, against activism and slacktivism. If you think advocacy means liking something on Facebook, you're not going to get very far in changing the world. It takes a lot more work than that. So please, roll up your sleeves and get to work if you want to create change. Okay? And last but not least, this is the fun part, our projects. So I love this one. This was our absolute, I don't know, people think it's the lamest project, and I loved it. Does anyone remember how many gallons they say the average refugee gets a day of water? Exactly. Doesn't go very far, right? So what we did is, you see that little mud wall behind her? So we built bathing areas, which means you could take the water, the 2 cups you use for cleaning yourself in the bathing area. The floor was slanted. There was plastic sheeting put on the floor. I tell you, this is more low-tech than the solar cooker. A hole here with a PVC pipe and a bowl. So those 2 cups, after you cleaned yourself, would run down here, go to the bowl, and they planted gardens. This is how industrious these people are. It's not just that they planted gardens so they could supplement their rations. They planted gardens. They let some of their plants go to seed. They sold seed. They trained other people how to grow gardens. It turned out to be an economic development project. It was amazing. Okay, solar cooker, I told you about that already. There, you can see how they work. They're pretty cool. Backpack project, which is something that Gabe really, and I'll tell you about Gabe in a second too, really did a lot of work towards this project. It was fully funded. 15,000 backpacks went to children in the Orsoni refugee camp. And when you think about it, it didn't just have school supplies. It had shoes. It had hygiene supplies. It had the things that you need to not just feel like a human being, but to actually survive. A pair of shoes can increase your lifespan in a refugee camp like tenfold. Because you're not going to step on something, get tetanus, and die because medicine can't get it because the shearers walking all ate you. Okay, now this project, I got to tell you, I don't think this will really resonate with you guys as much, but boy, I talk about this with high school boys and they go crazy. Because we did this with a Darker Dream team. So our partners in this sister school project are Tracy McGrady, who used to play for the Houston Rockets and was traded to the New York Knicks and now plays for Atlanta, I think. Baron Davis, who used to play for the Clippers, I have no idea where he is now. And Derek Fisher, and I guess if you're a Laker fan, that's a big deal. So what happened was Tracy McGrady, about 2 months after we took our trip to the refugee camp, I'm sure he was thinking, oh, well, a bunch of middle-aged Jewish women from the Valley can do this trip. I can. And he went. The difference is he went with a private plane, a handler that said, no, and sits in front of Tracy. He had like so much luggage that the French pilot of the private plane wasn't sure the plane would take off the ground. He went with film crew. Won't bore you with the worst documentary ever made, but he went because he wanted to make a difference. And after he decided an indoor swimming pool was not the way to go in a refugee camp, thankfully, he listened to what the people had to say. And what they said they wanted was an education for their children. So we are partnering with them. We built 2 schools. Each school services 700 students. We're almost finished with our 3rd school. We're hoping to get it done by the summer, but these are amazing. They are co-educational schools in a place where girls' education really isn't that important. They are schools where the teachers are trained, because that's part of the grant. We train teachers, we build the facility, we supply the school with all the things it needs and the students with all the things it needs. Oops, yikes. Oh, I'm not going back. So what you missed, because I'm not ever using this to go back, is youth centers. One of the problems, obviously, especially in a place as boring as a refugee camp, is the targeting of children that are captured and used as child soldiers. So a youth center really helps eliminate that problem. They're like safe spaces where the kids can go and they don't have to worry and they don't feel pressure. Medical clinics, and if you haven't figured out what color code, green means Sudan, orange means Congo. This was our first project. I gotta tell you, I'm very proud of this project. We're talking about an area the size of Western Europe that had not one burn facility. And when you think that many people end up looking like Renee, either as a direct result of attacks on the village or just even accidents with fire, and there's nothing to treat them. It's really easy to die from a 3rd-degree burn without treatment, either from infection or just the pain is so unbearable. So what we did was we brought Congolese doctors to Israel, where they were trained in surgical techniques to reconstruct skin after this type of burn. Then we brought an Israeli doctor down to Congo, where we built the clinic. We provided everything from rolls of gauze to skin grafting equipment. And this clinic has been working around the clock. And I'll tell you, do I have time for one quick story?
Sure.
Okay, so I'll tell you one story that made me really proud. This was right after the clinic was finished. So this was the Olympics in Vancouver. So I can't remember how many years ago. 3 years ago? Summer Olympics. So I'll never forget, I was driving on the freeway listening to NPR. And whenever I hear Congo, of course my ears perk up. So I hear a report, I say, tragedy has occurred in Congo, which, every day there's a tragedy in Congo. There was a group of people watching a soccer game there was like a generator and a screen, and the soccer game was projected. It was from the Olympics. And a tanker went by and exploded. And hundreds of people died initially in the fire. And then I heard on the radio, and the survivors were taken to the Bukavu burn clinic. And if that happened just weeks before, there would have been no survivors. So I am really, really proud of this project. Safe Motherhood Project, as I mentioned, when women are raped, they are ostracized or kicked out of their homes, and then they have no means of supporting themselves. Many of the rapes and it result in pregnancy, and because there's such damage to the bodies, believe it or not, this is another really horrible statistic, 1 in 13 women and girls die in childbirth. And it is the most preventable death ever. It is an absolutely 100% preventable death with prenatal care. So one of the programs we set up is the Safe Motherhood Project. We have a few programs based on this model. It's a collective. So the women come in and they learn, oh, where is it? Here we go. I'll show you some of this stuff. So the women come in and they learn different skills. In this case, it's farming and agriculture. We also have animal husbandry and healing arts. Example of my purse made at the Healing Arts Center in Congo. So what happens is, and if I tell you, this costs 63 cents a day to train a woman, to give her all the supplies she needs to learn how to sew, and they learn to sew all sorts of things, not just purses. I have back in my hotel room, I have a laptop bag, I have all sorts of stuff. But they learn a skill, a vocational skill, whether it's sewing or whether it's agriculture, whether it's animal husbandry. The money goes into a pot, and they help each other. This is to provide whatever prenatal care they need, whatever postnatal care they need. They don't abandon these children, even if they are children that are a result of rape. And it's an amazing project because these are women helping and empowering each other. They also get microloans. So when they're ready to go on their own, they can start their own businesses. Okay, so now I told you this little picture. So back to what you can do. There's someone in this community, and I have to tell you, I mean, we're located in Southern California. So this is a long way north. And I have told so many stories about Gabe Ferrick and so many presentations, I've now sort of lost track of where reality ends and the legend begins. You're sitting here as college students saying, what can I do? I'll tell you what he did, and he started doing it at 13. He began, and I do start embellishing because I'm sure, right now they think you're running, they're like your mayor of Sonoma. So he became impassioned in this issue. And he started by educating his community. He raised money, he got people to decorate tags for our backpack project. That's a project I said is fully funded. So when these kids got a backpack, it wasn't just a backpack full of supplies. It was a backpack full of supplies that had a tag on it that identified it as theirs, as something special that meant someone here thought enough about them to take the time to create something beautiful. And don't think for a second that that isn't meaningful to a kid who is in an ugly place and has nothing, because it is. Gabe took part in I think you got people to do like letter writing campaigns and advocacy, and this all turned into the Santa Rosa Walk to End Genocide, which is huge. I mean, there are people, well, we're walking in Los Angeles, and others are walking in Orange County, and then for the first time all the way down to San Diego, there are people walking here who are lending their voice, who are lending their time, their resources to say, we don't want a world genocide, and I'm going to stand up. I'm going to be an upstander. I'm not going to sit home on a Sunday morning and sleep in or go to the gym or do this or do that. Just this one day, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to say, this is an issue, it's important to me, and I'm going to stand up and be recognized. And that's huge. So he started this at 13. And I'll tell you, many of our best activists and best advocates started as high school students who who no one told them yet that they couldn't make a difference. So they made a difference. And that's really sometimes all it takes, is saying, I am going to add my voice. I am going to pick up the phone and call the White House. I am going to call my congressman and say, do something about this legislation now because I don't want to buy a cell phone that's covered with blood. You can do that. And I really, really hope you will. And for those of you who think, gosh, you know, I wish I could have a career in activism, but boy, oh boy, there's no way. There's nothing out there like that. I'm here as a group to show you there is. I can tell you, you will never be rich, but every single day of your life will be filled with more meaning than you can imagine. So if you have any questions about what you can do after college to start on that path, I'm very, very, very happy to talk to you. So here is the date. Sear it into your brain. I really hope you'll be there. I hope you support Dave's effort. He's going to college next year. So I really am going to need a leader here in this community to take this over. And that's it. I have a few things I want you, those two advocacy pieces.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so, right. So just to bring you up, and I think you guys know, but just to bring you up to the present with what's happening in Sudan. Since the referendum vote, since Sudan split, there has been a tremendous amount of violence on the border. And in the last several weeks, we have seen what we are now calling, and I can't even believe I'm using this language to address you, Bashir's fourth genocide. He has created something called a kill box around the people of the Nuba Mountains who have had to run, and they literally now have been living in caves. All food supply has been cut off, and all escape routes are blocked. So as soon as rainy season ends, which is imminent, it looks like Bashir, and you can go on our website or you can just Google it, and you can see satellite photos of it's actually sort of, if you ask me, it's like looking at an ultrasound picture where everyone says, oh yeah, I can see the baby. And I'm thinking, I just see a lot of fuzzy stuff. But experts can look at this and say, yes, these are these big vehicles, they're surrounding this area, these are the escape routes, they're cut off. People are starving, they've been starved out. As soon as this attack begins, it will be a full-scale slaughter. You know what's going to happen. Call President Obama. We're not asking to drop bombs. We're not asking, and everyone says, oh, let's just go. We're not even asking that. All we're asking for is cross-border aid. Let's get some food to these people. Let's get some medicine to these people. Let's at least help them survive while we try to use other diplomatic strategies to keep this from happening. So if you do nothing else tomorrow, there is here we go. This is the call to the president. On one side, there's a little bit of a recap of what I just said. On the other side, there's a script if you want to use it. Use your own words, but you know it's happening. Try and do your bit to stop it. And then there is the Dodd-Frank legislation that I spoke about with conflict minerals. Who is the member of Congress here again?
Lynn Woolsey.
Call her. Tell her to just keep pushing. We need language. We need this solidified and carved in stone. We need to get this started so we can guarantee that the next piece of electronic equipment we buy is conflict-free. This is what you guys can do. And these are the things that are not as maybe cool as saying, oh, I bought a solar cooker, or I helped support sister schools, but this is what's going to create change. I mean, you can support those things too, but do this. This is what's really, really, really important. Okay, is there any questions?
Questions?
Yes.
Well, the story went right, and you said that for Prerequisite, would we ever remake?
Not yet. Not yet.
Could you repeat?
What's your name? Kimberly asked if Renee has yet been reunited with her 5-year-old son, who's not 5 anymore, it's probably 6 and a half. And no, not yet. She is not yet healthy enough to make that trip. But she will do. Any other questions? Who's going to be walking on to end genocide. Yeah, okay. Yes.
Where is it? So what?
We'll give you information.
Oh, sounds good.
I also like,
Oh, yes.
there's information from Dave. Dave, why don't you stand up? And one chance to thank you for what you've done. Yeah, you can put a bunch of them on the table outside of here. And I want to point out that Dave is, even though he does remarkable things, he's a young man just like all of you. And you can do a little bit, for as much as you want or care to. And he's made a significant contribution. And we're proud of him, even though he's going off somewhere else to school. Where are you going, Dave? Do you know?
The year after.
You're
I'm
out.
only a junior.
Where are you going to go? Do you know?
I don't really know.
I'm sure the copies. Okay.